just got a notification.
Yep, I'm up.
It's Wednesday night, and you know what that means. We're back live on the Big Mountain.
Hey, welcome back to the Big Mountain. I am JY. This is my good friend Steve. I'm pretty sure our dwellers already know that, but it's a force of habit. So, hey, welcome back to another live episode on the Big Mountain. We are super excited to be here. Sorry, a few minutes late. But we've got a couple items. You're going to talk big TV schedules. We're going to talk about the NCAA governance, proposed governance changes. Kind of talk a little bit about our discussion that we just had today with the Big West Commissioner Dan Butterly. Some really juicy stuff coming out of him, so we'll talk about that. And then I want to end with just an overall discussion about the Mountain West 5 as we're getting closer to what I think is a pretty hard deadline, June 1st, and we'll talk about that. We're going to try to do our very first live poll this evening, so we're full of all kinds of new stuff.
We love throwing new things at our producer, PWB Productions,
That's
to
right.
see what he can do with it.
Keep him on his toes.
Yep.
So I want to say hello to the dwellers. We got a lot of our good mainstays. I see Steven, that college football guy. I know DJ and JEH were first in. JEH asking for a roll call of everybody that's in here. Brad Stanton, right? Yeah, Stanton is here. Hard Rock and Trivia Show. Bueller is in the house. Just so throw a chat. Oh, Just Justin. Can't forget our good buddy Just Justin. Go Pokes. Saying hello to everybody. Throw a quick chat down there. Say hello to us. We love to know who's on. And, of course, keep those chats going. Matt is in the house saying hello. And we love all the chatter.
And if you're having a beverage while you enjoy the Big Mountain, let us know what you're drinking.
That's right. We always like to know. I'm on water again.
Yeah.
Still trying to lose a few pounds, but it's not. I kind of hit the wall. It's not great. But here, hold on. Good old H2O. Bobby Boucher giving me some good old H2O. All right, Steve. You know how it is.
Yeah.
You start.
Yeah, let's roll right into some Big Ten stuff. Well, a couple Big Ten media partners are coming out with their upfronts this week, doing some announcements. So,
yeah,
2 out of 3. So, as a recap, the Big Ten, you got Fox, you got CBS, you got NBC. CBS apparently is not doing any upfronts this year.
Okay.
Because they're getting bought out or having a merger or something like that. So, it might be a little while before we hear from some CBS stuff, but we did get a couple Fox announcements for TV, and NBC announced their Notre Dame home schedule. So they actually didn't announce Big Ten games yet, per se. Well, not, yeah, I mean, one or a couple of them involve Big Ten teams, but they're not Big Ten home games.
Right.
But these NBC games kind of give us an idea. So I just want to go through these games here.
Okay.
We have 7 of them. Starting right off the bat, September 13th, Texas A&M at Notre Dame. Primetime game, 7:30. It's normally the Big Ten on Saturday night spot.
Right.
So we'll get into that a little bit later.
Yep.
And then September 20th, Purdue. That's always a big rivalry game there. 3:30, so normal time. Something I know you're excited about. Boise traveling to South Bend, October 4th, 3:30. Going to be a huge game. Even without Genty, still a huge opportunity for Boise to make a statement on the national stage. Each year, the last couple of years, they had games against Oregon and some other games where they could make a statement. And again, this is another great opportunity for them.
Well, anymore, as being, if you want to be a player within getting that CFP spot, you've got to have a big marquee game.
Absolutely.
I don't care what conference you're in, if you're in the American, if you're in the MAC, if you're in the Mountain West, going to be the Pac, you still need to have a marquee out-of-conference game. Not so much necessarily that you have to win it, but you have to show that you can compete. And Boise absolutely showed that last year. at Oregon, almost pulled the upset.
Yep.
I think they're going to compete very well here in this game. I love this matchup. I love the scheduling that Boise's done. And not only does it help Boise, it helps the conference, for crying out loud.
Absolutely. And honestly, you could say Oregon was lucky to get out of that game alive. I think Boise had a late lead, and Oregon had some big plays or whatever.
Yep.
But yeah, like you said, they don't necessarily need to win it. It just shows, do they belong on the same field?
Right.
And yes, they showed right away, they belong on the same field with the team who ran the tables in the Big Ten and was the number 1 seed going to the playoffs. So, again, huge opportunity for them. And then we've got October 11th, Notre Dame hosts NC State. This is their Peacock-only game. So that kind of shows you what NBC thinks of NC State as that opponent. Yeah.
Well, and to go back real quick, originally we had been told that the Boise game was supposed to be Peacock only. Now that it came out here with the scheduling of things, you see that they're getting the NBC game, thankfully.
Yes.
So yes, I appreciate you bringing that up, because that did change from what we originally heard.
Yeah, which is great. I think great for national college football fans, so they can all get that. That's a huge game, Boise and Notre Dame. The USC game, huge rivalry game, another primetime game. So again, for our Big Ten fans, that your ears should perk up there whenever NBC hosts Notre Dame, has Notre Dame for a primetime game. That can make some changes and some shifting in the NBC game schedule. We'll find out more about those games as the month goes on, now between May 30th. But that's a big one. And then another one, November 8th, where they host Navy. This is really a huge game, great ratings. It'll be in prime time. That means it's taking that Big Ten Saturday night spot.
Right.
So it could be some shuffling for the Big Ten schedule. And then their final home game of the year, Syracuse, will be a 3:30 game. So again, we don't know what the Big Ten games will be yet, but this gives us an indication of some weeks that things could move around. This is just kind of that first inkling, and what I'll tell you is, based on this and based on some things, the Big Ten, they do a draft, they pick games. Fox has the first 3 picks. We're going to talk about 2 games that were announced by Fox. I think another game, and when we see these, it makes me believe that the Penn State Oregon game, which I think is September 27th, is very likely to be the whiteout game on NBC. Which I think will be fantastic. It'll be huge for Penn State, and just huge to have that game on a national schedule, on national TV against their marquee opponent of the year. We'll see. It hasn't been announced yet, but what we're seeing from the NBC releases of Notre Dame, basically, there's not a Notre Dame primetime game that night.
Okay.
Which could have prevented them from having the whiteout there. Right. So that's good news. And so let's turn the page. Let's go away from NBC.
Can I talk about this really quick?
Sure.
So you look at, because I just want to go back and remind people what you've said here in some of our realignment videos about Notre Dame.
Yep.
NBC maybe being a little disappointed with some things.
Absolutely.
I mean, you look at the 3 big ones there, and they put them at 7:30. You should great viewership. Texas A&M, USC, Navy.
Yes.
So it should be really good game. I'm not surprised those are your 7:30 games.
Exactly.
They want the night games. Makes sense. You look at the other 4. You wonder why they're 3:30 games, and I'm sure they'd be wanting more. I mean, Purdue coming off a really rough year. Obviously, they're going to be in a bit of a rebuild. Odom is going there.
Yeah.
And then you've got Boise. I don't want to knock Boise. I think it's going to be a great game.
Yeah.
I love it. It's going to be on NBC. I love it. But it's not going to draw the eyeballs of a USC or one of these larger Big Ten schools. It just is what it is. Then you got NC State and you got Syracuse. So, there's some great games there. I get the 7:30 games.
Yes.
The 3:30 games, maybe. I'll be interested to see what kind of viewership they get out of all of those games.
Yeah, and that's been the tale of the Notre Dame story these last few years with NBC is it's like boom or bust. Okay. So now, are we ready to talk about some Fox games?
Absolutely, go for it.
So there's really only 2. So the way this works is Fox gets the first 3 picks every year. They have the big part of the contract. So they get the first 3 picks. They've announced the first 2 of those. So the first one, week 1, is going to be Texas traveling to Columbus to play in the shoe, play at Ohio State. Week 1. I don't know if I don't think they technically announced the time slot, but it's going to be the big noon game. They are contractually obligated to put their first, their top picks in that noon time slot.
Yeah.
So that's going to be huge right out of the gate. Week 1, I mean, Texas, really they could be number 1 versus number 2.
Absolutely.
Right away. Would not be surprised whatsoever in either order, honestly. So huge game, huge for Fox. Big noon, way to get kicked off. And then we go all the way. So they kind of did bookends here. Well, they did bookends. Week 1, Texas OSU, and then no surprise, week 14, OSU going Ohio State traveling. Ending the season in the game. It's going to be back in the big house this year in Ann Arbor.
Yep.
Week 14, obviously noon. It's always at noon. And so, Fox is kind of getting out of the gate. This is how we're going to bookend our big noon showcase, because they put all their money into that, all their resources, everything into that. And, I don't think either game is a surprise, because these are probably the two biggest games in the Big Ten this year.
Sure.
But it's just kind of nice to as we look forward to the football schedules, we can kind of start to plan. Okay, this is what our week 1 is going to look like. This is what now Boise and Notre Dame.
Right.
It's fun to have these kind of trickle out there. So we're starting to get that picture, early glimpse of what the Big Ten's TV schedule is going to look like this year.
And we're about 3 months away from week 1, from kickoff, week 0. I mean, we are now mid-May. Come June, July, we're going to be gearing up big time in previews, talking about our expectations of the Big Ten, the Mountain West, the Pac-12. So it's great that we're starting to see some schedules trickle out here for the Big Ten. I mean, week 1, could you get a bigger game to kick off the season than big noon, Texas versus Ohio State? Like
crazy, right out of the gate.
What do you get? And there's not more you can ask for than that. So that's a huge week 1 game.
Yeah, and I think we'll continue to see more of that. Those big matchups. Notre Dame's trying to do that. They just extended the deal with Clemson. That's really kind of what it's going to, is maximizing. We did a whole episode last year on the Big Ten, trying to get over it's like that 4 million viewer magic number.
Right.
Now, some of those games, they're going to do 10 million and higher or whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
But they want to maximize the number of games that they can get over 4 million. I honestly, I know you said Boise may not do some of the numbers. I would not have been surprised if that was also a 730. I think that was kind of borderline.
Sure.
And maybe it doesn't hit that 4 million, but I definitely could see it hitting 3.5 million and being really close there.
Yeah, no doubt. We'll get to some comments. A lot of BSU. Go Broncos. Go Boise State. Surf City Bill is in the house. Clint Moses is in the house. So welcome to you guys here. And just some, like we said, fun scheduling stuff that we now get to talk about. What's Matt say? Penn State, Ohio State should be Fox's overall 3rd pick unless they trade their pick again. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so from what I understand, there's no trades this year. It was a weird situation last year because Fox really wanted to the 3rd best game was Ohio State at Oregon. Well, Fox can't put that game on Big Noon because it'd be like 9 o'clock Eastern in Oregon.
Right.
So it was kind of funny last year. They did some trades. Apparently this year there is no trade. And yes, I agree with Matt. That will be the 3rd game. And that's what leads into what I was saying. Basically now we kind of know by process of elimination what the top 3 games will be. We've seen Notre Dame's primetime schedule, so that leads me to believe that September 27th game, Penn State hosting Oregon, which again will be a huge game, should be the whiteout in prime time on Big Ten Saturday night. And so great point by Matt. Yeah, that's always Penn State, Ohio State is usually, the second highest rated Big Ten game behind Ohio State and Michigan, which obviously Ohio State is the common denominator there.
Right.
And so I agree with him. They will obviously be the 3rd pick.
Shout out to Mr. Ed. He's saying hello, dwelling from down there in super hot San Marcos, Texas. And I will be down in San Marcos in just a few days. Going to be traveling down to Texas on Monday, Steve. It is supposed to be super hot. I have been told I am supposed to jump into the always 72-degree river that runs through Texas State University.
Yeah.
I may have to do that multiple times to keep my wits about me.
I think I've seen video where people go tubing down that
Oh,
river.
yeah. It looks beautiful.
Looks great.
Crystal clear. Apparently, the new thing now is when Texas State has a big win, maybe it as a championship win, I'm not sure. Mr. Ed could probably help me. A whole crew of them jump into the into the river.
Yeah. Well, so I hope you have fun there. That's really exciting. Clint brings up a good point here. I got distracted. Fox not picking any Big 12 games. What a great business partner. Last year, they picked a lot of Colorado games.
Yes.
They were in, I wonder this year. You know,
Yeah.
we talked about the Dion factor before. Has the Dion factor worn off? Now with his son and Travis Hunter moving on, they're not expected to be so great this year. That's going to be interesting. How many times does Colorado end up on Big Noon Kickoff? How many times are they highlighted by Fox this year? Because last year they got a lot of attention.
They did. And more as the season went on, right? I think, at least for the Heisman hype, it definitely got on the Hunter train there at the end.
And other than Colorado with the Dion factor, that's part of the thing with the Big 12. We talked about this. There's no like total lead dog in the Big 12. Yep. It's almost a parity league. There's a lot of good games that are exciting, but maybe not at that level that's going to get a Big Noon Kickoff. I guess we'll see. Maybe I think Iowa State is hosting Iowa in that Cy-Hawk game. I could see that as a Big Noon game.
So we got Rumbling in the house. We've got Sargent here from Vegas, a place we'll be visiting in July. Apparently, I need to go to the hottest places in the country during the right times. I'll be in Texas next week when it's supposed to be upper 90s to 100, and then we're going to be going to Vegas in July when it's Lord knows what it's going to be like there. But yeah, so thank you, JEH. Grads jump into the river as well as winning special games and championships. Yes, I think there was just a championship. I should know better. If we have any Texas State people on, I've been really propping it up on X. Been telling everybody I'm going down. I got some special swag to take with me. First ever swag to take with me. Hopefully we can see some of the dwellers down there at in San Marcos. I'm anxious for it, and I get to get a I don't know about a tour. I don't want to overstate it, but I will be meeting with the AD.
Yeah.
He's going to show me around campus a little bit.
I think that's what they call a tour.
Okay. Okay. Anyway, and tomorrow I'm going to be buying myself a brand new iPhone, so I can take really good video.
So you should have someone video you jumping in the river. I think that would be fantastic.
I actually might ask the AD to video me jumping in the river. Can you do me a favor?
Wear your Big Mountain t-shirt.
That's right. I'll have to have a shirt on. Nobody wants to see that. So anyway, what is Biz Ainsley? Are you guys going to spontaneously combust when UNLV leaves the Mountain West? No, I'm not going to spontaneously combust. Don't worry about that. And UNLV, well, unlikely, sir. Unlikely. I've said it. I'll continue to say it. It's unlikely, but anything can happen. Love Muscle says, who cares what UNLV does? It's UNLV.
Well, here's the thing about UNLV, because this has been a long road. And, at first, and we've looked at this from the money, the business perspective, because that's what all this is right now. Yeah. There's a lot of people that get emotional, and sometimes you do get emotional, but for the most part, we've looked at it from the deal side, the business side, whatever. And the numbers make so much more sense for UNLV to stay in the Mountain West now. Yeah. They want to hopefully get an A4 invite at some point.
Right.
And so they have a great deal in the Mountain West right now. So we don't. Now, at one point, you did move them to like possible, I think.
Possible.
But moved them back to unlikely.
I did.
So it's been a long saga. I think you've prepared yourself for all possibilities, and we've tried to prepare the dwellers for the most likely possibilities based on the hard numbers.
Right.
And that suggests that they'll stay in the Mountain West, but nothing is ever certain.
Correct.
If there's some kind of deal worked out and the numbers end up better for them to move, they'll move. I mean, that's just how things work.
Well, we're going to get to the Mountain West here in a little bit. I have a question for you guys about the Mountain West 5. That does not include UNLV.
Right.
At least yet.
Not yet.
But before we get there, I want to go to NCAA governance. We have a pod coming out tomorrow. We talk about this with the commissioner of the Big West, Butterly. He came out on Monday with, I called it an article. I think he said he just does a blog. Same thing for me. But and it got some attention. It actually was sent out by Ross Dellinger.
Yes.
Dellinger is the one where I saw it. Now, I follow the Big West, but I hadn't seen it before Ross had put something out. So I read it, and my goodness, Commissioner Butterly went for it.
Yeah.
And just told it as it is. He was very open, honest, but not happy about the proposed changes that came out of a video from about a week ago that the NCAA put out. Now, of course, he's a commissioner. He has known some of this, in the background. This is the first the public has really seen some of the details on this.
And
but-
let's say not just a commissioner, he's involved on, I think he's
Good
the
point.
head of at least one committee, NCAA committee.
Correct. Yes, and he gets into that. What he, I think I can't remember if he does it before or after we
I'm not
recorded.
sure.
But anyway, yes, he's very involved in the governance right now within the NCAA. So I want to maybe set this up. We didn't talk about this last week. It had just, I think, come out. Maybe the day. Wednesday's the day, man.
Yeah.
Wednesday is the day.
Yep.
But I do want to talk about kind of what some of the changes are, and we talk about this. So I'm going to put up two slides. One is just the current governance of the NCAA right now. 24 members sit here on this D1 board, and 24 votes. So every member has one vote. And you can see here on this slide who all the members are. So of course, pretty much your Power 4 is there. You've got the Pac-12 in white because they're kind of in between right now. I will say on the video calls them a G6. So clearly, as we have been saying now for a long, long time here on the Big Mountain,
It's A4.
it's A4 and G6. And so you'll see, of course, the purple there is your former G5 or your G5. You see your FCS representation, and I'm not going to go through all of this. But again, the thing I want to really point out, it's 24 members, and there's 24 votes.
This is the current.
Where we are today,
Yep.
D1 Board of Directors. Okay, you see off to the side there in the blue. I think there's a student rep and just a couple other rep, kind of at large type of people there towards the right side. So that's today. Let's move to the next slide, which gives you the proposal that just came out of this slide deck. And it was about a 35-minute video. It's super dry, super boring. I'll give a shout out to Immaculate. He actually did a post, a write-up here not too long ago. I don't know what day it was, but he has about 9 posts that goes through some of this. If you don't want to listen to this super dry, boring video, he gives you the highlights. But here's the revised or proposed D1 Board of Directors. Massively different. So you can already see way less seats at the table. All right. You have your A4 there at the top. You have 2 G6. You have 2, what is it? What is it? Something 22.
CCA 22.
22. You have 1 FCS, and then again, there on the purple was just an at-large type of person. I think it's non-voting, if I remember that correctly. And then again, that blue there on the right is student athletes and whatnot.
And it's CCA, from what I understand, what the commissioner was explaining to us, the CCA 22 are the 22 conferences that do not have FBS football.
Correct. They don't have football. So that's the new governance. Now, the big part here, okay, not only have they dramatically shrunk the members, this has, 13, I can't read, 13 members. They've also weighted the votes extremely differently. So if you look in the middle there, total votes here, the A4 has 4.1 votes per member. Okay? Everybody else has 1 vote. So a dramatic shift of power here. They get into some slides to give you examples of how potentially the A4 may not have control. I think, personally, to me, that's just pie in the sky stuff. But it could happen, if the ACC or the Big 12 decides they don't like what's going on, they would need to move, for example, to a no vote, and everybody else would have to agree to them in order for something to not pass. We get into some of that with Commissioner Butterly as well, because, where are we at here? Are we at a P4? We talk about, are we headed towards the P2? Does this help keep the Big 12 and the ACC on board with the Power 2 in order to kind of stay in line? So, Steve, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, the interview was awesome. Dan Butterly, Commissioner of the Big West, honestly, and I said this to him during the video, if we're going to create a presidential commission on how to fix college football,
right,
we need people like him on that commission, okay? I'd rather see him on the commission than some rich Texas billionaire who wants to buy Texas Tech a bunch of championships personally, because he talks about this. They have to play Moneyball out there. They have to worry about the logistics of how all this works. They don't have unlimited money like the Big Ten nearly has. SEC, Big Ten just getting crazy checks from ESPN and all the other partners. They don't have that. So they have to make this stuff work. and I loved a lot of his points. Everything he talked about, and he really, I mean, from his perspective and from the CCA 22 and really from the G5 perspective, I think he's absolutely right. They are having to basically pay into this settlement in order to be a part of this new governance structure, and they're not getting anything in return. They're losing influence, losing power, losing seats at the table. It's going from, and he stressed this, going from a one conference or one school, one vote to a consolidated weighted vote, which is not good for them and not good for the majority of the lower tier schools. So I think all of those things are right. Now, there are a couple points, and Immaculate, you mentioned Immaculate. He did a good job of showing this. I'm not going to poo-poo it as much as you did. I think, and like I said, Immaculate did a good job of showing this. Yes, the A4, if they want something to happen under this power structure, yes, absolutely true. They can push it through and make it happen. And I think that's their point in all of this.
Yes, right.
They're making that happen.
Yeah.
But we're seeing it in the CFP where they're not in lockstep.
True.
And actually, true. Commissioner Butterly kind of brought this up. I think it actually puts, I'm sure, again, the G5 and a CCA 22 would rather keep the current model of one school, one vote, one conference, one vote, whatever. But it puts the Big 12 and the ACC in a position, I think, to be those swing votes.
Yeah.
They can be a check on those Big Two, the Power Two. True. Like we're seeing in the college football playoff, and basically not allow them to push through everything they want to push through. Now, if the Power Two use their influence to kind of bribe them, then it is what it is. But then you get to a point, and this is what I asked him, at some point, if that's what it is, and I understand they have the settlement right now, they're trying to figure out these settlement payments, but eventually those payments are going to be paid. This is not it doesn't have to be forever. So at some point, if that's what happens and they just get stuff shoved down their throat, they're going to have to decide, do they want to stay in that kind of a structure? Sure, does it make sense for a group of schools like Ohio State, Michigan, Florida, Georgia, and Texas to be under the same governance structure and model of a Cal Fullerton and a UC Santa Barbara, and let's say even a Wyoming or a San Jose State, some G5 programs, G6 programs, and so I agree with his points. I think he's making great points. I think, though, there is some opportunity there, again, for the Big 12 ACC to kind of be a check on that power of the top two.
I just don't trust them.
Well,
being the G5 guy, the G6 guy, I just don't trust him. But you're right. I mean, I am disagreeing because I don't like it. But you're correct, given what that proposal is. Yeah. They would have to be. If there's any hope of a G6 and an FCS and a CCA 22 having any sort of say, they need to hope, honestly, and that's all it is hope that the Big 12 and or ACC are going to keep them in check. And, you use the word bribe, and I just don't trust it. I don't trust that there wouldn't be bribing happening.
Well, in some ways.
But you also bring up the CFP.
Yes.
And Immaculate did it to me today on X.
Yes.
And it is a good point.
He's exactly right.
And it is a good point. So
it only takes one conference. I'm going to continue on this a little bit.
Okay.
It only takes one conference because we see the ACC. So if the ACC were to lose, let's say Florida State and Clemson, they're top two. Now they're a conference of elite academic institutions that don't have the TV ratings, the eyeballs, and the money. That could change the dynamic so much. Yeah. So I don't think we're disagreeing. I think it's just, like you said, you don't trust the Big 12 and the ACC. I don't trust them either. Right. What I'm saying is there's an opportunity for them to be a check on the Big Two, the top two. Right. Whether they take that opportunity or not, who knows?
So I'm going to ask Surf City's Bill's question, Steve.
Okay.
So what's the benefit of this governance change?
I think the major benefit is, and there's two parts to this. It's hard to separate the House settlement and the governance change, and the settlement leads into the governance change. The biggest change is the A4 get to set the rules, set the things that they want to do. When you watch the presentation, they talk about streamlining, and I've been critical of the NCAA. They've been slow to react, slow to act, slow to react.
Right.
They were very slow with the NIL process,
Right.
because their current model, it takes forever to get anything done through the way the committees are set up and how it has to go through all these steps. So they're always 2 or 3 steps behind. So I think the A4 look at it as, hey, we can make rules, we can work faster to create rules that are going to help them predominantly. They feel like they have the money, they should also have the power. Really, that's what it's about. And you know, it sucks if you're the team at the bottom that doesn't, the schools that don't have the money because you don't have the power. But that's really what it's about, and it's the continue. We've seen this all along. It's been happening, not just with this, the consolidation of money and power. And those things go together. If you have power, you can get more money. If you have money, you can get more power. And we're just seeing that kind of split happen. And both you and I think, don't want to split. We want to stay big umbrella, but we're seeing it happen more and more.
And you bring up a good point. I mean, toward the beginning part of the NCAA's presentation was the legislative process, the decision-making process. Very cumbersome right now. They want it to be more efficient. Of course, it's going to be mainly controlled by the A4, but they want it to be quicker, more efficient, all that kind of stuff. So whether or not you think that's a positive potential, I don't want to get into too much more conversation because I feel like we're going to say too much. Yeah, I really want you guys to hear it directly from the commissioner, because he has a lot of really interesting things to say.
And David Jorgensen says, well, that's just another reason for a breakaway. I asked him that question point blank. Why the heck are you staying with these people? And he gave, I thought, a great answer. So if you want to hear his answer, you should watch that video.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. And a lot of these questions we bring up. Now, we didn't ask what's the benefit of this governance, but I did ask why. Like, what is forcing this? And, you know, so a lot of these questions you guys are asking, we do get into that with Commissioner Butterly, and really good conversation.
And he didn't hold back in his answers.
He did not hold back.
A lot of times you get, you know, what we call it, coach speak or AD speak or president speak, commissioner speak. He didn't use any of that. No. He gave us honest answers to the point of what we got to do to fix this in his mind, from his perspective as a CCA 22 commissioner.
To Masta sounds like you. He says commissions are nothing burgers. That's your favorite word, nothing burger. I had to say that.
Can we talk about the commission?
Well,
let's get through some more
comments. Let me go through some comments, and yes, you can talk about the commission.
Okay.
Because some interesting things came out today on that as well. Shane Gillis, Rumbling brings up, I'd like to see Shane Gillis. I don't know if he's talking about the commission, or I'm not sure what he's talking about, but Shane Gillis is from very, very near to us here, where we're recording or coming to you live.
He's a Notre Dame fan, though. So
is he a Notre Dame fan?
Persona non grata.
He's very close to, or he grew up.
He did.
And still lives around. I mean, he shows up all over the place. Maybe someday he'll be on the big mountain.
He may be.
That's unlikely.
And I'm going to give him shit about Notre Dame.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
Okay.
Any update on Sac State's application? No, I did reach out this week. I was told that there is no update yet. However, I will tell you that I was told that communication is still positive. So still moving in the right direction, maybe taking a bit longer than what Sac State fans would have originally hoped for. Stingers up. But I have been told that the communication is still positive, still expecting good things to happen there with that application. That's about all I can say at this point. Thank you for the question. I wouldn't have said that without it. So Stingers up. Well done.
And you asked Commissioner Butterly about Sac State.
If you want to hear about the Big West's possible interest in Sac State, we ask him about that as well. Really, the two main things we talk about is membership and governance.
And Commissioner Butterly gave a kind of a one fix solution that would fix about 90% of our problems. Raised goosebumps on my arm when he gave me this answer. Again, amazing interview.
So let's get back to the commission then, Steve.
Yes.
You're not a fan?
No,
nothing burger
from the beginning.
All right, go ahead.
Well, okay. So you know, JY, that I have been skeptical about anything in Washington helping this problem along. Not because I didn't think it, should happen or needed to happen, because I just didn't think it would. Because why? Because what always happens, you get into pissing contests. These people want to have their moment of fame. These people want to have their moment of fame. This other group wants to have the limelight and the spotlight. They want to talk about their pet cause. I really thought we were finally with Senator Ted Cruz,
Right.
And his committee. He was really getting down to the nitty gritty last week. I was following along there and really talking about, because why should government have oversight of this? Well, a lot of it is the antitrust exemption of professional sports, the NFL, broadcasting, and all that kind of stuff. And he took some pointed shots at the NFL. And said maybe we should take their antitrust exemption because of some of their bad behavior, and then talked about reasons why college football, college sports, maybe should have an antitrust exemption.
Right.
Why or why not, and how it would work. And now I feel like we're really getting to the nuts and bolts of the conversation. Because in order to fix something, you're going to need legislation. And legislation isn't just grand words on a paper. It's detailed.
Right.
And thinking and reasoning has to go into it. And I think Ted Cruz and his committee are really doing a great job so far with that. And then, right after all of that happens, we hear the president wants to start a commission, and he's putting Nick Saban in charge of it, okay? Well, and along with Nick Saban is going to be this guy who is a Texas billionaire who, through his power and influence and money, which that seems to be recurring, money, power, and influence, has made himself the chair of the Texas Tech Board of Regents. He's their biggest donor. He's basically bought them a new football roster this year. He's trying to buy them championships in other sports. So let's go ahead and put him on this. So we have all this money and power that's affecting college sports and making them bad. So let's take one of the bad guys and put him on the commission to fix everything. So right away I was very skeptical for that, and also, we have something that looks like it's working. The committee through Ted Cruz.
Right.
Why mess it up by starting something new? So that was my initial thoughts.
Okay.
And then we get to this week. We get to today. And so they go to Nick Saban, who, and they ask him, so what are your thoughts on helping lead this commission? And he says, first of all, don't really know anything about the commission. Second of all, I don't really see the need for one.
Right.
So he's supposed to lead this. So we have one guy who's one of the bad guys, and the other guy who doesn't think that there should even be a commission. And these are the two guys that are supposed to be leading it.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay. I mean, what else can you say there?
I just don't put a lot of stock into it. I mean, it is what it is. The only thing I'm going to say is, yet again, you ask Commissioner Butterly about that and whether or not he thinks they're not commissioned, but is there government? Does the government need to get involved in some way through Congress, through whatever? And he answers that question again very directly. So I'm going to leave it at that.
I want to say one more thing.
No, you're getting fired up tonight.
Well, I've been very. I'm not going to talk about the commission anymore because I think it is bogus, like a lot of our commenters say.
Yes, a lot of people agree with you.
And I think you have to be a little surprised at the positive things I've said about Ted Cruz and his committee.
Yes, 100%.
Because I've been pessimistic about him, about the everything in Washington. I am becoming more and more optimistic based on what went on in his hearing last week. Immaculate and I kind of went on Twitter today about the antitrust exemption, and I shared the famous Schoolhouse Rock video, how a bill becomes a law, which is great. Maybe sometime we'll get our producer to play that for our audience. And he said, good point, because there's still a lot of steps. The first step is the committee, but I'll say I'm usually the pessimistic one. I'm getting more optimistic about that course. I think it's still going to take a while,
right?
But I think he's got the train on the tracks, and we could see something over the next year.
I will say that is a massive shift in Steve.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you had been very pessimistic about all of that, everything. And, I know ever since, there's been a couple things that have come up, but I think the most recent one was kind of what Cruz presented here last week, 2 weeks ago, whenever that was. Just how well it was presented. Now, not that you agreed with everything, but
he showed that he's serious and he has a grasp on the underlying issues of the law and all that's involved with that.
All right, let's move to our last topic, the Mountain West 5. Of course, this is Boise State, Utah State, Colorado State, San Diego State, and Fresno State. I'm wearing my Fresno State shirt
Ooh, the Dogs.
this evening. I haven't worn it in a while, so I thought I had to put my Bulldog shirt back on. And we're going to do something here that we've never done before.
Okay.
And I did it on X a little bit ago. I'm sure some of our dwellers have seen this. But I asked a question. Because I'm trying to wrap my head around a good reason. This is not JY throwing shade at the Mountain West 5. I'm trying to understand the reason why we haven't withdrawn yet. Okay? So here's going to be the poll. The poll is, why wouldn't the Mountain West 5 give written notice to the Mountain West on or before or end of day June 1st? So June 1st is the deadline prior to it going to the untimely, if you will, untimely notice. And here are your choices. And I pulled these choices off of what some people said on X. So there could be others, but these is what some people said. So number one was, there's really no need to do it until June 1st. Why do it in January, February, March, April, May when you don't have to do it until end of day June 1st?
Which is what I told you before. That was my expectation.
Okay.
They did it at the last minute.
So that's an option.
That's an option.
Option 2 here, because there's merger potential. They don't want to do that because there's the potential that we may have a merger. So, no need to do it because maybe we're going to merge. The third one here, the pack rebuild fails. So they're holding on to kind of having, their foot in both pools, if you will, straddling the fence. Because, they want to go to the pack, right? But if that rebuild fails, they can just fall back into the Mountain West and, pull an SDSU from a few years ago and say, we weren't really going anywhere. Yeah, you were. So anyway, they're kind of playing that safe game, if you will, straddling the fence. And then the last one is because they, a little bit maybe more nefarious. And there could be even more nefarious reasons than this. I'm just trying to put out, legit reasons.
Okay.
They want to maintain their voting rights. Now, we know the Mountain West has said, no, you're leaving. You don't have any more voting rights. Now, there's a pissing match about how the bylaws are written and whether or not they withdrew and all that kind of crap. I'm not going to get into that. But the reason is because they think and they want to maintain their voting rights in the Mountain West. And, of course, I could put nefarious stuff in there literally, they just want to hold the Mountain West hostage as long as they possibly could. I don't think I think there needs to be a real reason. And so, Steve, those are the 4 that I put out. You mentioned the June, no need until the June 1st date. What would you vote for? Or what item did I miss?
Well, I kind of feel like the bottom 3 almost all could be folded into the top 1. There's no need to do it until June 1st because of all those other 3 things could potentially happen.
Okay.
But yeah, that I said from the beginning, I expected them to do it at the very last minute because that's what people do.
Yeah.
That's what they do in these situations quite often. We see this with budgets. Okay, we live in the state of Pennsylvania.
Sure.
The budget is due by July 1st, so it's usually agreed upon on June 30th and signed at 11:59 that night. And that's just kind of what happens. And they can have multiple reasons. Or it could just be they don't actually want custody of the kids. They're just holding out on that so they get the BMW kind of thing.
Sure.
So, I don't know. I'm intrigued because I've been following your kind of back and forth with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I'm intrigued by the amount of people that keep talking about a merger, which I think you and I basically, we said it's not going to happen at this point, but it's just interesting to me how many people keep talking about it. And I wonder, is there an actual reason why, or is it just hope, pie in the sky, hope? That's just something I think is kind of interesting.
Well, I see according to what I can see, we have 19 votes in. We have at least 60 watchers according to YouTube right now. So get your vote in, even if you don't have a dog in the race. A horse in the race.
Yeah.
A dog in the show.
Yeah.
Whatever the hell the saying is.
Dog in the fight.
Dog in the fight.
Bulldog in the fight.
Bulldog in the fight. Tell us what you think. Appreciate you guys. And there's no right or wrong answer here. I literally am just and then, so my next question then, Steve, is if we get to June 2nd, and I'm not saying we're going to know immediately. I don't know. maybe they will, but I'm not saying the Mountain West is going to come out or these schools are going to come out and be like, yippee, we notified the Mountain West. I think that'll come I mean, we're going to find out. I don't think we would find out June 2nd necessarily. But let's just assume it comes out that they have, I follow up with somebody and I say, hey, has this happened? And on June 10th, they're like, nope, we haven't gotten it yet.
Then that means
what do you think?
That means one thing in my
opinion. What does
it
mean?
It's a legal strategy that they think that they don't have to do it. And they're like, if they think that if they agree to it, they're basically agreeing, they're stipulating the conditions which they're saying of the agreement, which they're saying were done under duress or whatever. If so, that to me, if they don't do it by June 1st, that's a pure legal strategy, and they're under advice of counsel, basically not to stipulate in any way to the conditions of the agreement.
Okay, so let me ask you another question.
Yeah,
and we're not lawyers.
Nope.
And you're 100% correct. That's probably why they would. Well, not. You are correct. It's because the lawyers are like, yeah, don't do it.
Yeah.
For whatever their legal strategy is, whatever their mediation strategy is, as we're going to get into that here in a second too, the mediation. But so yes, I agree with you. But what do you think that strategy is then? Is it just because like, hey, we're already fighting the exit fees?
Yeah.
So who cares? Like, we already are saying that, what the number right now, 15 million or whatever the hell it is already too much. So what do I care if it doubles to 30 million? We're still fighting that number.
I think it's their way of basically getting that entire agreement made null and void.
The entire bylaws, not just the exit fee.
No, the punitive, because there's exit fees and then poaching penalty.
I'm not talking about the poaching.
Oh, okay.
This is purely exit fees. This is why the Mountain West 5,
right, okay,
which is a totally different lawsuit.
Yes. Okay.
Why wouldn't they notify?
I think it's to try and put the pressure on that, hey, if we win, you're going to get squat. That it's going to be nothing.
It's full court press.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so to basically put that pressure on the other side to come to a settlement, because like they're saying, we're going to burn the boats. We're not agreeing to anything whatsoever.
So then my question then is, the interesting thing here, Steve, I just keep peeling back the onion.
Yes.
Only 3 of the 5 are in a lawsuit right now.
Right.
So what does that mean? Because Fresno and San Diego State are not in this lawsuit about the exit fees. I would be shocked if 2 of the 3 give notice. They're all in the same boat together. Now, the reason that the 2 California schools are not in the lawsuit is because of San Jose State, and I get that.
Yep.
But there's a different risk factor here. I would assume that, wow, we have 2 schools that are not privy and party. They're not part of the mediation because they're not part of the lawsuit. Are they going to follow the Mountain West 3 that is in a lawsuit, or are they going to have to turn in their written notice?
And correct me if I'm wrong, these lawsuits have been filed in the state of California, correct?
The exit fee is in Colorado.
Oh, exit fee is in Colorado.
The poaching is federal in California.
Okay. So we chased a lot of rabbits down rabbit holes when we were talking about the first PAC case and then the Florida State case and all that kind of stuff. This all becomes like, the little prairie dogs and how they have like a million little holes going down there.
Yeah.
I've gone down a few of these holes and there's a lot of theories out there. So we could talk about this all night and throw out all kinds of crazy
This is
theories.
my last one, I promise.
Okay.
It just is a unique situation where you've got
unique.
3 of the 5 in a lawsuit and 2 in a lawsuit and mediation and 2 not.
Yes.
And the bylaws, if you're going to hold them as a contract, apply to all of them.
Am I allowed to throw out sovereign immunity?
It wouldn't be a Big Mountain episode if you didn't.
Because I've read some things specifically about California, which I think is interesting. And as you said, those 2 are not part of the suit.
Right.
But I've read some things basically suggesting that one of the strategies is basically to get the entire bylaws, the entire agreement to become null and void due to various state interests of, can't suing public schools, one public entity can't sue another, and all of those different things. Basically, Hail Mary strategies, which the Florida State sovereign immunity was looked at as a Hail Mary strategy by a lot of people. And we didn't go all the way to trial, but really it worked.
Yeah.
So again, I think we don't, if we get to June 2nd or June 10th and they haven't given notice. To me, that is just a clear indication they are throwing 15 Hail Marys at one time. Then their entire strategy is either to get the whole thing thrown out completely and not have to pay anything, not one dime, or just put enough pressure that possibly could happen to get the Mountain West to come to the bargaining table to come up with some number in the middle they can both agree on.
Well, and that leads us to, well, first of all, if we can close it, we've got 23 votes. That's as good as we're going to get. Let's close the poll so we can see what's going on. I want to get to some of our commenters, but that gets us to mediation. Mediation starts on Monday, the 19th. We're not going to get news about what the heck's going on the 19th or the 20th or anything. I did an update on that on Monday. If you're interested to hear what I had to say, take a look at that. I don't expect any sort of update for mediation until the very end when we have an agreement or we don't and we're going to trial. That's all we're going to know. And so I just wanted to make sure we brought up the mediation piece. I don't know if you have anything. I know you weren't here for that discussion, but anything about mediation that you want to speak to?
No, not really.
Okay, so here's the results, and then we'll hit to some of our commenters. Collegiate athletics advocate. Give a shout out to this person. I think his name is Will, if I remember correctly. He's new channel. And in his intro video, he gave a shout out to the Big Mountain. He also gave a shout out to that college football guy. So, hey, shout out to Collegiate Athletics Advocate.
I gotta check out his
channel. For all of our Pack fans, he is a Cougar. He is a Cougar alumni. And he was a hockey goalie. So he and I are going to get along real well.
All right, I like it.
I tried to be a hockey goalie. I think he was a real hockey goalie.
So on his channel, does he appear on camera?
Not yet.
Okay, well, we should get him on our show sometime.
Yeah, we'll have a call in with Will. Would love to have you on. I haven't listened to anything. It popped up. I'm like, I'm going to give this a clicky click.
Yeah.
And I was shocked he had us on there. So thank you for the shout out there, Will. But with that, okay, percentages. All right, need not to until June 1st, 34% tied with the Pack rebuild fails at 34%. 21% maintaining their voting rights, and only 8% with the merger potential. So everybody pretty much agrees with you, or at least they liked one of the other ones better. Yeah. They think the merger's kind of crazy. And the Pack rebuild, I get it. Like the Pack rebuild, it's like contingency stuff, right? We're doing it for contingent.
Just in case.
At least those other two, the rebuild fails. And the merger potential is kind of a contingency thing. I kind of use that voting rights. To me, that's a bit nefarious. Like, yeah, we want to screw it to the Mountain West, and I don't think that's I'm not at all saying that I think they want to screw it to the Mountain West. But it is odd to me. But number one here agrees with you, Steve. Just no freaking need.
Yeah.
So
I do kind of want to get back to that point of the legal strategy aspect and how we were talking about some other cases. If you remember when we talked about Florida State and Clemson and all that, I told you I have some serious I don't know if concerns is the right word, but I guess doubts about a lot of the conferences. We talked about the Big 12, they're ironclad and all that because of public universities. Okay, now Florida is a really unique case with their sovereign immunity, as everyone told us 1,000 times. Florida has unique laws, sunshine laws, and sovereign immunity, all that kind of stuff. So they are a bit unique, but there are so many it's a web of state laws, and I've seen. I work in the world where basically higher education meets government. And I've seen not from sports people,
right,
but basically speculation from government and higher ed people that all of these conferences where they have all these rules, they can sue each other and whatever, that basically because they are public entities, that in most states, all of these conference agreements are completely illegal and could be ruled void, which would would wreak havoc on their ability to negotiate media deals. But for people in government and higher ed, they don't necessarily care about football media deals. They care about the law and high billion-dollar state-funded entities. So anyways, I just wanted to throw that out there. I've seen some speculation. I don't want to go down all those groundhog holes of a lot of conferences potentially not wanting to go to court and having to argue things in specific states. California has unique rules similar to Florida. because the entire conference bylaw agreement, what binds them together, could be thrown out and basically made void. That it never, it was void from day one because it broke the law when it was written and agreed to. So.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, we saw FSU go nuclear. Like, if anybody can go nuclear, FSU did.
Right.
I'm not sure any school is going to go as nuclear as they did.
Right.
These schools aren't doing that by any stretch of the
yet.
You're right. Not yet.
Yeah.
I don't think that's their end game. I think both of these lawsuits are all about the first step in negotiations and mediation to get the contract or to get the fees lower. They're going to pay something. How much? Nobody knows. If they go, I would be very surprised if these schools went nuclear. Any of them. I just don't think that's why they're doing this at all. This is a mediation settlement strategy.
I agree with that. Now, it only takes one California senator to say, hey, we are not going to, like we saw in Florida, to say, hey, we are not going to allow our public universities to pay this amount of money because this agreement was not legal in the state of California.
Right.
And if you have, since you have multiple entities, public entities that agreed to this and it was not legal, so in the state of California, that means the whole agreement is null and void. Like that's the beginning of a nuclear option. I agree with you. We're not there yet, but it could happen, just like we saw happen in the state of Florida.
I'll be very surprised if that's the case.
I don't think it will need to go that far.
Okay. Yeah. We got to get to Justin in with another super chat. He is the man, one of our best dwellers. He says, I wasn't happy when the 4 original teams said they were leaving the Mountain West. Now it's like I wish you well, super happy about the new identity of the Mountain West. I don't think the Mountain West is where it needs to be. Texas and Utah, ? And, you said it perfectly there, Justin. I'm kind of where you're at. You're not going to hold anybody, whether it's these 5 schools or the original 4 or the Seminoles in the ACC. If people want to move, they're going to find a way to move. And it just is what it is. Again, I'm with you. I wish them well. We're going to be following the pack as we go through this. We've already talked about that. And I am with you. I'm super happy with the new identity. And this isn't I'm not trying to trash any of the schools that are leaving. I love the additions. I love UTEP. I love NIU for football. I love GCU. And again, keep an eye out on GCU. News possibly coming from GCU here in the not too distant future. But I love everything that they've done. Are they to the same quality of the Boise State football program? No. We've said that from the very beginning. Nobody is. Boise State is the best G6 football team in the country, period. Everybody knows who they are. They get the Notre Dames. They get the eyeballs. They make the CFP. They get a runner-up for the Heisman. I mean, we've said that over and over again, so I'm done talking about that. And I wish them well. I'm a Boise State Bronco fan. I mean, hell, we had Dickie on. We have him having an invitation on for him to come again. But let's get to the other part in terms of, was there something else?
Texas and
Utah. So I just want to say, I'm going to bang the drum again. I'm big on Tarleton State. I will say, I think if Texas State falls through for the pack, which I don't know why that would happen, but it could happen. If I'm the Mountain West, I am absolutely back at that door the very next day, asking if they're interested. Now, they may very well be happy in the Sun Belt, and that's fine. Stay in the Sun Belt. But if they fall through for the pack, I am right there the next day saying, offer still stands. Do you want to have a conversation? I frankly think Texas State would at least have the conversation. I'm not going to say they would go to the Mountain West, but I think they would have the conversation. And in terms of Utah, at this point, I think the only one that I could see happening, it's a non-football deal, it's UVU. Now, we talked UVU maybe going to the Big West. I think at this point, it's weird. There's a massive hole in the middle of the Mountain West footprint. I just don't see a great ad.
Well, Big West is not football.
Correct.
So couldn't there be a situation where they join the Mountain West for football?
It could be football only. Yeah, it could be football.
And the rest of their sports go park in the Big West.
Yeah, that could happen. The other one I want to say is, and it came up a couple weeks ago, I am really interested in UC Irvine for a basketball program. And, all Olympic sports. Again, they don't have football. It's down there in the southern portion. When that kind of bubbled up, I've heard they've had some interest possibly in more non-football schools. Man, UC Irvine, I think, would be a fantastic ad. Not saying it's going to happen, pure speculation on my part, but I think it's a strong addition.
So there was a point there where we were talking about FCS schools.
Yeah.
And I suggested a few times that I thought that there was some kind of, I don't want to call it a conspiracy, but a group mentality at the FBS level that they did not want to bring in any FCS schools, at least until the House settlement.
Yes.
And at first we weren't sure about that, but we've heard some things from people that suggested that is indeed the case. So we're getting closer, I think, to a House settlement.
Yes.
Okay. I'm wondering if that opens the door now. We've talked about Tarleton State. We've talked about Sacramento State. We've talked about the Montanas and the Dakotas.
Right. Yes.
I'm really when we get past this House settlement, if the PAC can ever figure out what the heck they're going to do and solidify their membership, I wonder if we start to see some more movement with FCS schools. Sac State, it would be great to hear if they get approval to be independent at the FBS level. I think they could put together a heck of a schedule. You said that multiple times.
Yes.
And you have better sources and contacts than you know more than I do on that. I really wonder if that's kind of the next, because I'm picturing the way the Mountain West looks right now. Again, I agree with you. Exciting regional conference.
Right.
And you add in the Northern Illinois to it. And then what if you add a Tarleton and eventually, and the two Dakotas, North Dakota State, South Dakota State, maybe a Sac State.
Right.
Well, you could really create a fun football conference that still mostly fits that regional footprint.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my big excitement going forward. Do we see the door open to some FCS programs?
Well, and another thing is the new governance going to create now kind of 3 layers. You're going to truly have your A4.
I think so.
You're going to have your G6 or 8 or whatever that might be, and the rest. Well, if that's going to be the case, that there's going to be a true delineation, then I say, does the A4, are they going to care as much?
Right.
That there's the dilution of the FBS programs or FBS series, football series, because they're in their own damn governance anyway. They're in their own top tier.
And I'm still not convinced that they even care about the dilution. Dilution. I think they care more about the votes to get the settlement approved. There's been a lot of people that suggested that. You're right. That they don't want to dilute the purity of the FBS. However, I think it's more about they knew this. I mean, this settlement has been long coming. These cases, they didn't want to introduce anybody, because why would the new people want to vote with the top level? Because they're just going to get screwed by this whole settlement.
True.
So I think they didn't want to upset the apple cart. And now maybe once we get past this settlement, they're not going to care at all, potentially.
And the number of members in the conferences, because as we've said, the poor little guys are paying for the debt that the big guys ran.
Absolutely.
And that's just, unfortunately, that's the way the settlement's going to go. Hey, we're going to pay you money so that you can take away some of our power. Well, that's what's happening. I'm going to give you millions of dollars to give me less power.
As you remember, JY, I have been against this damn settlement from the very beginning, because, not specifically for that, but because of a lot of that. They are trying to fix past problems by creating this new structure. We see the results of the new structure, which is the smaller schools, the G conferences, the CCA 22, they're getting screwed twice on this. Right. Yes. You have to pay for this, and you're going to have less power, less influence, all this stuff. So
let's hit some comments, and we're going to hit the road, Jack. So I know this was back when we were doing the poll. See some people saying... Bill says the lawyers told them to wait, most likely. I didn't have that on there, but we kind of got to that topic.
I think that goes along with your first option. Wait till June. The lawyers told them wait till June 1st because you don't need to do it before then.
True. Yeah, that's true. I see Hard Rockin' says, still want a merger. No, it's not going to happen. Can a man dream? Absolutely. You can want whatever you want. Surf City Bill said 1 and 4 should have been tied together. Biz Ansley says it's 1 and 4. The Trolls would say option 3. No trolls. No trolls. JEH is agreeing with you. Let's see. Atomic Skull back in the house.
Oh.
They're going to remain members until June 1st, 26. Well, they will be members until, June 1st.
But you have to give your
June
notification
30,
early.
26. But you have to give your notification by June 1st, 25 to leave the conference effective July 1st, 26.
I think at some point, not tonight, but we need to have more conversation because we keep getting it brought up. Bill brings that up again.
What's that?
The college athletics advocate. The whole thing of, and I know you've done some episodes where I wasn't there, so I didn't get to weigh in, but the whole thing of the Fresno State, San Diego State didn't sue over because San Jose State,
right,
and what that means. We're gonna have to revisit that topic later.
Okay. I mean, the Mountain West 5 has to give the notice, though.
Yes.
I mean, I know that only 3 has sued, but if they all want to leave,
yes.
Under the timely exit fee, they need to give notice. Billable hours undefeated. That goes back to the lawyer talk. Said differently. Let's see. Okay, Bizansley's talking about why what's going on with the Colorado State schools.
California State schools.
What did I say?
Colorado State.
My bad. I'm just going to hit these last couple comments here, guys. If there's anything we need to... Everybody's discovering the collegiate guy. I just can't... You know why? Because he's a Pac. And most of our people, that follow us also follow Pac stuff. Yes. And he's doing Pac stuff.
We got to have him on the show.
Yeah.
You said Will is his name.
Will,
I'm
yeah.
going to have to start following. Justin says UVU. Gives the UVU a shout out. Another question. You asked Commissioner Dan Butterly about, are we going to see more of that that model, the NIU model, where you put park your football team in one conference and the rest of your sports in another conference?
Right. Yes, for sure. Yeah, we talk about that NIU model, that Frazier model.
Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, you get Commissioner Navarez, Commissioner Butterly, AD Frazier, and AD Center from UTEP. Get them in a room, and they can figure all this stuff out and make it work.
JEH, UC Irvine has a really good baseball team. Yep, they are in the NCAAs, I do believe. I don't follow a lot of baseball, but I did look at that right after we had good old Doug on.
Yeah.
And yes, they do have a good baseball team. Steven agrees. He thinks once there's a settlement, there's going to be FCS to FBS movement incoming.
I think it was at Cal State Fullerton. I think they have a good baseball team too.
Yeah, Big West has, honestly, they have good programs.
And so, and I know you want to wrap things up.
Let's wrap things up.
But you continue to see that where it's football is the one thing you can't compete in football without money.
Right.
You can have schools that they can compete in these other sports. We talked about volleyball with Commissioner Butterly.
Yep.
We're talking about baseball now. The Olympic sports, you can see this happen. But with football is that one sport you just got to have the money.
Yes, for sure. All right, guys. Hey, we appreciate it. Make sure you smash the like button, as Steven's reminding you guys all. Really enjoy our live episodes. First ever, what was that?
Live poll.
Thank you to our producer for getting that up there. It seemed to work well. We're all trying new stuff all the time.
We just hit 67. I think that's the highest I've seen tonight.
And now we're leaving.
We're giving the people what they want.
We're giving them what they want.
And then we're walking away and making them want more.
That's right. Well, they're going to want more for 2 weeks because we don't have a live show next week. We are off next week. As I said, I'm down in Texas. Going to be visiting some Texas State fans and Texas State University. Steve, you're off as well. Mm-hmm. We'll be back in 2 weeks. That'll be the end of May. And my goodness, we have to start getting ready for some college football. And I still believe, I said this on X, I think the rest of May and June are going to provide some really good information for both the Pac and the Mountain West, kind of solidifying some things so we can move on. I truly believe the next month and a half will give us some answers.
And for the show, something we've talked about, we're still talking about working through logistics. Probably in July, we're going to start some kind of premium level where we'll get you more access to things, maybe do some premium subscriber shows. We've talked about doing a Discord. Our producers already set that up for us. So look for that, where we're going to solidify those plans this summer. I think probably starting July or August, somewhere in there.
Yes, for sure. We've got the bill saying goodbye. You asked for Schoolhouse Rock.
That's right. All right. Love it.
Producer
PWB
delivers.
comes through again.
There it is. Awesome.
I'm just a bill.
Sing it.
No, that's it.
Okay, hey, with that, we thank you guys for watching. Smash that like button. We'll see you next time on The Big Mountain.
I'm only a bill.